Hi students, I hope all of you are doing well in your home at this critical time. Last class we have discussed about Gauss law and how Gauss law can be derived from Coulomb's inverse square law. Now in this class we will be seeing some more points regarding Gauss law and then we will be solving some numericals based on Gauss law. Right? So, according to Gauss law, the electric flux through any closed surface is equal to charge enclosed by the closed surface divided by epsilon naught. Let us see what is the meaning of each term. Right? What is phi? Phi is nothing but flux through closed surface that is under our consideration. Right? And Q is charge enclosed by the surface. Q is the charge inside the surface only. Q is not the charge outside the surface. Enclosed by the surface, literally inside the surface. And here E bar is electric field due to all the charges inside as well as outside the surface. Right? Please remember, here charge is only inside the surface, but whereas here electric field due to all the charges inside as well as outside the surface. And here we have this one, closed or integral over closed surface, or I can say closed integral. Literally, mathematics point of view, we can say it as closed integral. Then integral over closed surface. Let us discuss about this surface. If you want to apply Gauss law, we need a closed surface, and that surface is called as Gaussian surface. What do you call that surface? Gaussian surface. And Gaussian surface, right, it can be imaginary. Surface. Need not be real surface. That means the surface may not be physically existing, but it can be imaginary. It is always closed surface, and it is better to imagine symmetrical surface. In most of the numericals that we solve, it's always better to imagine symmetrical surface. Right? It's always better. It doesn't mean that you should not imagine unsymmetrical surface, but it is always better to imagine symmetrical surface. Right? And that surface it can go through continuous charge distribution, but it cannot go through discrete charge. So that surface, it can go through continuous charge distribution, right? Continuous charge distribution. I'm continuing from here, I'm writing here. And I'm continuing from here, right? It can go through continuous charge distribution, but it can't go through discrete charges. The surface that you are taking, it can go through continuous charge distribution, but it cannot go through discrete charges. That means it can't pass through any single charge, right? And then whatever surface that you are taking, okay, electric flux, EFX, electric flux, it should be normal or tangential to the surface. So it's always better to imagine a surface, or it's always better to take a surface where electric flux is normal to the surface or electric flux is tangential to the surface. Is that clear? And here we have come across one point called as continuous charge distribution. Till last class we have discussed about only discrete charge distribution, like single charge, 2 charges, 3 charges, 4 charges, 5, 6 and so on. But we have not talked about continuous charge distribution, and after this we will see what is actually continuous charge distribution. Right? Let's see once again. What is flux through the surface? What is it? Charge enclosed by the surface or charge inside the surface. What is E bar? Electric field to all the charges inside as well as outside the surface, right? And that integral is there, that is integral over closed surface, or in mathematics terms we can take it as closed integral. And here we are talking about a closed surface. That closed surface that we are taking is called Gaussian surface, and it can be imaginary or it need not be real surface. And it's always better to imagine symmetrical surface. It can go through continuous charge distribution, but it can't go through discrete charge. And the electric flux should be normal to the tangential, normal or tangential to the surface that we are considering. Is that clear? Then, what are the uses of Gauss law? What are the uses of Gauss law? Gauss law can be used. Very simple. What is this? Flux. To find flux due to a charge distribution. It can be discrete charge distribution or it can be continuous charge distribution. To find flux through a surface, through a closed surface, right? And we can find out charge inside the closed surface that is under our consideration. So we can find charge enclosed by the surface, right? It can be continuous charge distribution or it can be discrete charge distribution. And we can find the electric field due to a given charge distribution. It can be continuous charge distribution or it can be discrete charge distribution. Is that clear? And these are the main points regarding Gauss. Right? I told you here. Let us talk about continuous charge distribution. Then we will move on to the numericals on Gauss. I hope it is clear. Right? Right. So let us talk about continuous charge distribution. So continuous charge distribution. Continuous charge distribution. We have seen single charge. We have seen two charges, three charges, 4, 5, 6, and infinite number of charges. We have found out electric field due to single charge, electric field due to two charges, electric field due to three charges, 4 charges, 5 charges, 6, 7, up to infinity we have seen. And we have seen electric field due to a dipole. All these are discrete. That means where you can count the number of charges. Right? So where you can count the number of charges, by using principle of superposition or by using a parallelogram law of vector, we can find out force on any one charge due to all other charges, or we can find out electric field at a particular point due to so many charges. But if you are having a charged body, for example, if you are having a tin rod which is charged, you might have a semicircular ring, you might have a full ring charged, you might have a disc charged, or you might have a semicircular charged disc, or you might have a hollow charged sphere, you might have a solid charged sphere. All these are called as continuous charge distribution. That means where you cannot count the number of charges, you can't find out individual charges, and that type of charges are called as continuous charge distribution. Continuous charge distribution. Right? What are they? Let us take some examples first. Charged rod. That is one example. Charged ring. Charged ring. Charged semicircular wire. Semicircular wire or rod. Or we can have charged charged disc, or we can have charged semicircular disc, or we can have charged hollow sphere, or we can have charged solid sphere, or we can have charged sheet, etc. All these are examples for continuous charge distribution. That means you can't find out the number of charges. Right? Like that you can have many. But once again you can have two types of charge distribution. One is uniform charge distribution, other one is non-uniform charge distribution. So uniform charge distribution means charge is distributed similarly throughout the whatever the rod or maybe ring or maybe a wire or maybe a disc or maybe a semicircular disc or maybe a hollow sphere or maybe solid sphere or maybe sheet. Non-uniform charge distribution. Charge is not distributed uniformly. At some places charge concentration will be more, at some places charge concentration will be less, and so on. Right? Then, so we are going to define density. You might have seen already like the normal density. What is actually normal density? Mass per unit volume. It's called as mass density. Or sometimes you might have seen linear mass density. Mass per unit length. Do you remember? Mass per unit length. Or you might have seen mass per unit area. We have seen already, system of particles and rotated motion chapter. and center of mass concept we have seen, like mass per unit length, mass per unit area, mass per unit volume, something like that. Similar to that, here we can define three types of charge densities, and the first one is called linear charge density. What is the first one? Linear charge density. So linear charge density. Linear charge density. So very simple. Linear, the name itself says here, line. Right? So for example, if you are having a rod, it might be thin rod, it might be thick rod. Let's say you are having a rod or maybe a wire. No, the charge on this rod is Q. The length on this, the length of this rod is Q. Sorry, the charge on this rod is Q, and the length of the rod is L. Then we can define linear charge density is nothing but charge per unit length. That is also equal to, for example, let us take a small element here, right? The charge on the small element is dq, and the length of the small element is equal to dl. That means you can write this one as dq divided by dl. Charge per unit length, right? If we see here, throughout the rod, our assumption is that charge distribution is uniform. So this one will become a uniform charge density in this case, right? If it is a non-uniform, it will be slightly different. It might be a function of length, right? Then, what is the SI unit of this linear charge density? Charge unit, coulomb. Length unit, meter. What's the dimensional formula? Charge, IT, right? Meter, length, L. That means what we are going to have, L power minus 1, T power 1, I power 1. And this is the dimension formula for linear charge density. Right? And what's the type? It's a scalar physical quantity or a vector physical quantity. It is a scalar physical quantity. So, literally, linear charge density means charge per unit length. Charge per unit length. And this charge per unit length is valid anywhere. It can be continuous charge distribution. It can be continuous. It can be uniform charge density or it can be non-uniform charge density. The formula is valid. Charge per unit length. If lambda is constant throughout the rod, then it is said to be uniform. If lambda varies from place to place inside the rod, then lambda is said to be non-uniform, right? If lambda is constant for the entire rod, then it is uniform charge distribution. If lambda is not constant, that means if lambda is variable, that means at different places inside the rod, charge is different, then we will say that one as non-uniform charge distribution. Right? And if you cross multiply here, I will get dq is equal to lambda into dl. If you want to find out the total charge on the rod, integrate on both sides. Integration dq is equal to lambda into integration dl. Limits are from L1 to L2. Is that clear? Is that clear? It's very simple. Now, of course, lambda can be constant or lambda can be variable. Lambda can be uniform or lambda can be non-uniform. I hope you have understood. Right? Then we can talk about now surface charge density. Surface charge density. surface charge density. Right? It's very simple. It is denoted by letter sigma. Right? For example, surface charge density. Surface charge density means like you can have a disk, or see that disk can have a surface, circular surface, or you are having a hollow sphere. The sphere is having an outer surface, right? Like that. So sigma, charge per unit area, or I can also write dq divided by d. This is nothing but charge per unit area. So charge per unit area. And what is the SI unit? So SI unit, coulomb per meter square. And what's the dimension formula? IT divided by L square. That means here what you are going to get? L power minus 2 T power 1 I power 1. And what's the type? And type is nothing but it's a scalar physical quantity. Units are very, very important. Dimension formulas are very, very important. It means because every year compulsorily there will be one question based on that units and dimensions or measurements topic. So it is compulsory to know like dimension formula and unit of every physical quantity that you come across. But we will not discuss much about that. And then once again, if sigma is constant, that means throughout the surface sigma is constant, it is said to be uniform charge distribution. If sigma is variable, then we will say it is non-uniform distribution. Right? If I cross multiply, dq is equal to sigma into dA. You can integrate on both sides to get total charge on the area or total charge on the surface. I hope it is clear. Right? So what is basically linear surface charge density? Charge per unit area. Right. Now in the similar way, we can define volume charge density. So volume charge density. What is volume charge density? It's very simple. It is a denoted letter rho